You're listening to Raising Anchor on 990 WBOB. Welcome to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey. Your home for news, analysis, and everything Rhode Island FC. Each week, they take you inside the locker room, inside the tactics, and inside the storyline shaping RIFC. Now, here's Matt and Jason. Rhode Island FC head to Fitzpatrick Stadium to take on the Portland Hearts of Pine in Prinx Tire Cup action on the weekend. Can RIFC continue their winning ways against the Hearts, or will we see a different side of the Fitzy on the weekend? And could there just be, finally, a cup set here in this Prinx action? Shawn Fecteau of the Blazing Musket and Friggin Soccer Show joins us today. It's his birthday, so we're going to start things off the right way and say happy friggin' birthday, Shawn.
Oh, thank you very much. It's certainly nice to be back and spend some time with you guys and talk a little bit about the Hearts of Pine coming off the snide and upsetting RIFC at home at Fitzpatrick Stadium.
I kind of hate that it's your birthday coming up this weekend because I want to give you whatever it is you want for your birthday, but I don't know if that's in order on this particular show. Got to also check in with the other co-host here joining us tonight. It's the usual, Mr. Jason Carey. Jason, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. My bank account, not so much. I just dropped $180 on a parking ticket for a World Cup game, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. It's my poor financial decisions.
I feel like that's a flex, though, that you are going to the World Cup. I've been interviewing soccer players ahead of the break where we have to fill in programming. And so far, none of our RIFC squad is going to any games in person. So you got to be careful how you flexing, especially with the birthday boy here. Did you invite him to the game?
They're just making smart financial decisions. I'm just saying, whatever. I'll figure it out later.
Shawn, we'll put it out there. Are you going to any of these World Cup matches?
I am not. I am not going to be going to any World Cup matches. The closest I will come to going to a World Cup match is maybe visiting the June Quirk pub down on Dover, New Hampshire. And that's one of our sponsors here of the Friggin Soccer Show. And they just do it up right down there. So that'd be the closest I would come to go into anything World Cup, would be going down on the June Quirk pub.
I hope you're happy with yourself, Jason. Listen, the best we can do right now, it sounds like, is we're going to at least have to get you some free beers or get a tab open at that bar for you to enjoy yourself. You just mentioned the Friggin Soccer Show. Want to ask, it's a change. It used to be From the Forest to the Tide. Now Friggin Soccer Show. What's the genesis behind the change, and how has it been going for you guys on your podcast covering the Hearts of Pine?
Yeah, so we got to a point where we were growing probably as much as we were going to grow over in the Dirigo Union umbrella, and we had some opportunities presented to us, but it meant we would have to kind of break off and become more of an extension of the Dirigo Union and not be completely underneath the Dirigo Union. So we are more of an extension now of the Dirigo Union. So we stopped with From the Forest to the Tide and kept that as a Dirigo Union podcast. If someone looks to maybe re-up that and keeping the name and keeping that all underneath the DU umbrella, we thought that was probably the best way to do that. And, up came the Friggin Soccer Show. So now that we have broken away, we are allowed for, sponsorships and stuff like that to roll into what, we've got plans for in the future and try to allow us to maybe do some on-site stuff and some different things with the supporters.
I love that for you. It's an awesome name. I hate that it's as good. I'm not going to say better, but as good as Raising Anchor. It's interesting you talk about the separation of supporter groups. Early on, when we were planning our own show, Defiant 1636, they didn't have the name yet, but it was made very clear to us from a media perspective and keeping a certain level of independence and coverage that there couldn't be that direct representation from a supporter group if we wanted the access that we now have. So I totally hear you about kind of keeping things adjacent but separate at the same time. And it's great to see that you're seeing that success.
Yeah, we're really enjoying our time. First year as the Friggin Soccer Show, and getting that access that you're talking about and being able to do those post-match interviews and bringing that to everybody. That was something I wanted to do last year, but was just never really able to make it click the way I wanted to. And now this year, I think people are really starting to see why we had to make that separation and the difference in coverage that they're getting through the friggin' soccer show versus what we actually was doing prior to with From the Forest to the Tide. So we're really enjoying it, enjoying that first sponsor. We got a few more that we're talking to, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a good first year for us. Happy about it.
Well, congratulations again. You're in your sophomore season yourself. I know that programming started before the club ever kicked a ball, but still congratulations on that. Gonna jump into the big 2 news topics of the day, getting right into it. Donnie Rojas, Cristo Fernandez joins El Paso. How do we feel about this? Jason, is this a yay or is this a nay from your side of the spectrum here?
I think it's more of a wait and see. I know he's an actor, but he did have some legitimate time with Tescos FC in Guadalajara, Mexico. So like, it's not like he's a nobody who's never kicked a ball before. He never maybe really made that jump to be a professional because he had some knee injuries. So I'm just going to kind of see how it pans out the rest of the season before I kind of make a judgment on it.
Shawn, how about you? Is this a yay or nay for El Paso? Is this a yay or nay for the USL in general?
Well, kind of, in sync with the show that he was on. I want to believe. I really do. I want to believe, but I can't get there. I'm sorry. I got to be the negative guy. I got to be the black hat. I'm going to say this is a grab at some publicity. I understand he's got some experience in the soccer side of things and stuff like that. I hope he proves me wrong. I want to believe, but from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, I can't get there myself. I have a lack of data in front of me.
I mean, listen, the way I see it is this is probably primarily publicity, like you're saying, Shawn. But I think at a point where the only way this league is going to get attention is through stunts like this, I think it's good. I mean, obviously, when MLS did it, they brought in players like Beckham, right? Or Zlatan, or now Messi. We're not bringing in necessarily soccer talent, but we are bringing in a type of talent where USL, like there are probably at least 5,000 new, I won't say fans, but people aware of the USL because of that news announcement. And maybe, and I guess most importantly, if it translates to fans at El Paso, it's a win-win in that standpoint. Interestingly, I kind of go back to what John Morrissey was saying when we were having a conversation online. El Paso's not foolish enough. They're, if this was a team at the bottom of the table and they were just like if this was Monterey Bay, no disrespect to Monterey, but if this is Monterey and this was a higher platform than Sebastian Lletget, you could argue and say, hey, like we just need to get butts in seats. This is the way to do it. El Paso's they're doing very well in the table right now. I think they're in second or third. I know they're towards the top of the table. Junior Gonzalez would not implode his first year of coaching in this team at this level of the league to just say, hey, what if I completely took this not serious and brought an actor in? And so to your point, Jason, he does have experience. He did trial at multiple clubs. I'm sure there's something there. And John was right to point out he has to have some talent. Is it, more than 10 minutes every third game? We'll see. Is he start? I don't think anyone expects Cristo Fernandez to be starting in a El Paso match other than maybe like a Prinx USL 1 Cup game anytime soon. And even then, I feel like that's a year off. And he's 35. So let's be real. Like the amount of minutes we'll see him on the pitch is probably not as long as a Ted Lasso episode. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, those 35-year-old knees will be creaking if he starts putting 90 after 90.
Absolutely. Want to get into the other news of the week. Rhode Island FC announced finally the Heritage Nights. So these are all of the themed nights that usually happen in tandem with like the bigger themes like we just had recently, Star Wars Day. So we finally have our Heritage Nights, and it's going to be a run from May 23rd all the way to October 17th. And it looks like there's going to be 6 matches that have heritage, and it's going to be Scottish heritage, Cabo Verde. It's going to be Colombian, Haitian, Portuguese, and finally Italian. And guys, I'm going to play a little game with you guys, a little quiz. Which one of these heritage do not belong with the other ones on this screen right now?
Let's see. I'm going to go with Haitian for myself. Question mark?
I'd say when you say not belong, is it like, have we had a Scottish player
Nope.
Like, is
There's one easy comparison. All of these clubs have one thing in common except one.
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Yeah. What?
I was going to say Italian
And why would you say Italian, Sean?
because they're not in the World Cup.
Bingo.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly right. I bet you when they picked these and they picked the scarves that nobody thought Italy wouldn't make it in, and yet here we are, and they are the odd
Expanded
man
World
standing.
Cup, Italian. They're going to be in it. No problem. They got more spots. Oh, I tell you. Sorry.
There's a whole generation that will be born that has never seen Italy participate in a World Cup. Like that is wild at this point, because it's what now? It'll be at a minimum, it'll be 20 years, right?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah. You're pretty close.
Wild.
This is the fourth World Cup they haven't qualified for, so it's 16 right off the bat.
So, want to get into the Prinx Cup now before we break down these two matches, or these two teams across the matches ahead. Looking at where we're at in Prinx standing, interesting breakdown here. I don't think any of us had on our bingo board that Brooklyn FC, the expansion side, would be leading Group 5 this quickly in, with the only win so far in the tournament. Westchester and Rhode Island at the same level of points, but because Westchester drew 2-2 to a certain team we're going to talk about today and won in penalties, they sit above Rhode Island in the playoff line. Hartford and Portland then battling out. Again, Portland sitting in fourth over Hartford with, again, those two goals. And then New York Cosmos, New Jersey Cosmos, whatever you want to call them, sitting comfortably in the basement. I mean, Sean, I'm going to start with you. Two New York teams sit at the top of the table. The only one that's won so far. Cosmos is a team, I think it's the only team that the Hearts of Pine have beaten this season. When you look at this and you understand the reduced wild cards at play or at risk here, does this game kind of feel like a do or die? Like if one of these two teams doesn't take at least 2 points, or maybe even, I dare say, 3 points, that we all need to pack our bags and go home because there's no advancing out of Group 5?
Well, I tell you, we're getting there. Game 2, I don't think we're quite there yet. We have to assume that maybe Brooklyn and Westchester are going to slip a little bit. So it certainly helps if either Rhode Island or Portland goes ahead and secures those 3 points here for the table. But not a lot of wiggle room. Not when you're playing 4 games, and not when you have to win to get out of the group. Only one is going to be a wild card out of all the groups. So you have to look at it and go, it's either you win or you're out.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that this is a must win, because that's kind of a bad word around here. We don't use that one except for, maybe, I don't know, playoffs or knockout games. But I think picking up points here is necessary to kind of stay in contention, right? There's still 2 more games after that, but it is very tight.
Agreed. Well, we shall see what happens. Most of the teams that will take their top spots usually have to be pretty sterling and pretty perfect to advance in, and it's only going to get more difficult here in the 2026 edition. We've got to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the head-to-head record and break down the Rhode Island FC side of this matchup up in Portland, Maine. Don't go anywhere. It's the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast, powered by Sprout Coworking. For all your business needs, large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Powering 990 WBOB, that's sproutcoworking.com.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
Back here with Shawn Fecteau from the Blazing Musket and the Friggin Soccer Show. Almost said Portland, Oregon at the break, guys. I'm still a West Coaster sometimes when it comes to my Portlands. I know, Sean, you don't want to hear that, but let's talk about this head-to-head record and break down the original kind of history that these two teams have seen each other with so far. So, Jason, paint a picture for us on the history of these two teams.
Yeah, getting right into the head-to-head here. We've come up against them twice so far in the U.S. Open Cup and in the Jägermeister Cup. From a scoring aggregate perspective, Rhode Island has outscored Hearts 6-2. Recapping those matches really quickly, in April 15th of 2025, we met them in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, where we defeated them 2-1. Goals for Clay Holstead, Frank Nodarce on the RIFC side, with Titus Washington scoring for Hearts of Pine. We then saw them a few months later there, June 27th, 2025, in the USL Jägermeister Cup. Defeated them 4-1 there. Portland Hearts of Pine, getting a single goal there from Titus Washington, with Albert Dequa scoring a hat trick there.
Shawn, after the first Open Cup match, we expected a bit more of a close match between these two in Jägermeister Cup. It goes the complete opposite direction. Hearts rotating their squad to a bit of kind of confusion from the Hearts side of fandom. Was this Bobby Murphy moving away from focusing on a group tournament style play and focusing on positioning within the league? And was it something else, like managing minutes through a long schedule, having to worry about the attrition of being an expansion team? It really felt, and no disrespect to Murphy, but it felt like he kind of threw that one away.
Yeah, last year, I think I remember going into that match, basically saying that, we're still in it, but we're playing without a safety net, was really kind of how everything was framed going into that match. And I think, where the Hearts were trying to concentrate a little bit more on the league. We were in a spot in the table last year that we were probably 2/3 of the way down. That was actually the beginning of us getting things straightened around and start to move back up towards a playoff position. And I think that was kind of his thought going into it, going, you know what, I don't think the reward is worth the risk. So I think we're going to go ahead and rotate it out. Whatever happens, happens. But I think he was in a point at that time of the year, they're going to start shifting focus to the league.
Well, then let's start breaking down this matchup in the third installment of the head-to-head. Starting with the availability report, right now, Jason, it's looking good. There are no players as of last week or any conversations or rumblings I've heard from the team this week that we have a knock or any kind of injury, but not the same out of this Hearts of Pine camp. It looks like there's a major player that we probably won't see on the weekend. Shawn, what's going on with Wada?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it was probably the memory serves me correctly, it was the FC Naples match. And what was happening was, I think we were probably 10-15 minutes into the match, and Wada was going for a ball on goal. The goalkeeper came in and landed on his leg and broke the lower part of his leg just above his ankle. In fact, the bone actually came out through the sock. And he's writing about his experience on Substack, and it was really it's a great thing for him to take on and actually start the whole process right from the game and all the way through, a little bit behind the scenes. So if you follow him on Instagram, you can go down in his bio and you can find that Substack. It's really worth following along. But clearly out for the year is Masashi Wada, and he's really the straw that stirs the drink for the Hearts of Pine. So a major blow for the 2026 team. Good news is we do have Mateo Kidd, which has got St. Louis roots, just like our head coach Bobby Murphy. They got experience with each other, so he's stepping in, and he's early on, but he's looking like he may pan out pretty well, replacing the best he can of Masashi Wada.
Shadow Wolf in the chat saying it was the Knoxville match. We were on his program, which you can look forward to when it drops tomorrow. When you say he was the straw that mixed the drink, was it a Moxie that he was mixing? I'm just curious. I want to know what beverage it was.
We'll go with that. We'll say it was a Moxie. Yeah.
I just don't see Wada as a heavy alcohol drinker, so I feel like that was the safe one. Jason, walk us through the ref report for this match.
Yeah, looking ahead to this upcoming match, head ref here is going to be Callan Radisav, with his assistant referees being Andrew Karen and Christopher Slane, with the fourth official being Andrew Parada.
Now, the last time we saw Radisav, he's a ref that usually we take advantage of. He's the type of ref, guys, that keeps the cards in the pocket. So you love to see that. Don't know how that will necessarily transition on game day, but getting into this RIFC history within the Prinx Cup action so far in the season, like we said earlier, now currently in third place, although tied 4 points if you want to go that way. But again, goals are that first tiebreaker. Didn't see the result we wanted in Hartford against our rivals with that 0-0. Jason, what is the key takeaway to remind fans? It just was a few weeks ago, but what is that thing that we need to make sure gets brought up here now?
Yeah, I'd say that 0-0 was a bit of a deceptive result there. Despite the scoreline, Rhode Island did control the flow of the game there and provided better attacking pressure. But ultimately, Hartford defense has been putting a lot of work this season and has kind of been carrying them through as they've been struggling to score. There's a reason that Siaha and Depiz here are early front runners for goalkeeper and defender of the year so far. When you look at the entirety of their league and Prinx Cup play, they've only lost one game this year and have the 4th fewest goals conceded in the league. It's also important to remember that despite it being a championship opponent, Kano rotated heavily in that matchup after a midweek clash with Charleston, starting Dorsey, Fuson, Atkinson, and leaving 6 of the most prevalent starters on the bench.
Want to talk about the lineup? Guaranteed to be wrong on this projected 11. Something different here, guys, for this particular show. I've got what I'm calling the reality, and that's the team that I think Jason and I, it's that best starting 11 that exists within the structure of this team right now. And then I've got the possibility where, because this is a USL 1 opponent, and it's no disrespect, Shawn, to the Hearts of Pine, but is this the opportunity, one of the few chances we see on the season where the rotating players could see starting minutes? So if we talk reality, Jason, we've got, Koke Vegas, in net. We've got that back 3 of Jope, Yao, and Nodarse, that center pivot in the defensive side of things with Bacharach and Holstead, your wings being Quizera and Sanchez, Pity Rodriguez in the cam role, and the striker pair of Afonso and JJ Williams. But let's talk about possibility here. Castro in net. Let's start there. Do we do a back 4 for the first, like a true back 4 in this game, like we saw in some early Open Cup action, where we still see Sanchez, but then it's Karifa Yao and CJ Williams in the back line, possibly a Danny Rivera appearance instead of Nick Scardina? Do we see a lone single deep 6 in Clay Holstead or Hugo Bacharach? You could take your pick. But then do we see that double, because we saw it in the last game, do we see the double 10 pivot, the attacking pivot of Noah Fuson and Amos Shapiro-Thompson? Do we see Atkinson on the left? Do we see Quizera on the right? And do we see Logan Dorsey as the lone striker? We've seen versions of this in some of these other games.
Don't hate it.
What if you had to pick one or the other? If you were 50-50ing this, it was a DraftKings bet, which one are you going with?
I would kind of go with slightly leaning more towards the possibility. Like, it could even just be like a slight version of these two combined. I think, like you said, with no disrespect to Portland Hearts of Pine, you look at their record so far this year, only being able to beat the Cosmos. I think it's an opportunity to give some of these other players some opportunity. And you can always keep some of the starters on the bench there to bring on as impact to get make a change to the match.
I mean, yeah, when we look at this, the last time these teams clashed, I got to bring up some sad history for all 3 of us. And it's not that Joe Brito started, because he's now retired. This was Isaac Enking's last game ever as a Rhode Island FC player before he was loaned.
RIP there.
Yeah. It's so, like, there's a lot of, but again, we saw rotation in those matches. We saw Kano not field his quote unquote starting 11. I still think that there's possibilities here. The big question, and this goes to both of you. So Shawn, we'll start with you not knowing anything about this club right now for the most part. Who's the keeper in net? Because we have not seen rotation all season, including amateur teams, including US Open Cup matches. We didn't see it in the first Prinx Cup match against Hartford. If we are rotating keepers, what does that mean? Is that a statement of intention if we don't see it from Kano? Who's in the back of the net? If you guys had to, again, put another 50-50 bet, or I guess it's 33-33-33, because there's 3 keepers on this team. Shawn, we'll start with you. Who's in the back of the net for Rhode Island FC this weekend?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give it the kind of Hearts of Pine flair, and we typically will put in our backup keeper in the cup competitions, at least with a relatively decent dose of reality and regularism. I just made up that word there a little bit. So for us, it would be usually Cash Oladapo will probably end up being in that for us. For you guys, I'm going to go ahead and say Castro. I'm going to go ahead and say your backup is probably going to get the start. I'm going to use that Hearts of Pine thread, if you will, and I'm going to say your backup keeper does get the start in the cup competition.
Jason, do you agree or disagree with that?
I think this is probably one of the only opportunities to play him in that regards. We've already seen that Koke, started the first Prinx Cup game. So at that point, if we get far in the season, I don't think there's any reason he can't put him back in there. But I think you should probably get them at least a few matches. And so we've got this one here against Hearts of Pine. We have a match against Westchester. I think those are probably good opportunities to see our backup keeper.
I agree 100% with everything you just said. If there is a time and place, it's going to be these USL 1 opponents. However, it's going to be Koke Vegas, because if we didn't see him, and if we didn't see one of the alternates at CD Filands, I just don't believe there's a world where we don't see Koke Vegas on the weekend. So I will be closely monitoring Koke's socials, and if I see him taking pictures that he's down in New York visiting family or off on a little mini vacation because he's got the weekend off, I'll report it right away. But there is no world right now where I believe that Kano is not fielding Vegas on the weekend. We got to go to break, but last question of this segment. Who's the X Factor player in this match and why? 30 seconds, Jason, go.
I'm going to say no if you saw him. I think it's finally starting to turn well for him, and I think he'll make an impact here in this match.
He did see some damage against the Hearts of Pine last time around. I've got Jorge Quizera from the Rhode Island FC side of things. I think he's probably one of the most likely players to be on the pitch no matter what, considering how well he's locked down that right side. But it's going to be a battle against Ollie Wright. I expect to see him either contribute to a goal or an assist in this game if we get on the score sheet. Shawn, do you want to take a stab at who you're the most worried about from an X Factor?
Williams, that's your striker, good in the air. And when we get into the starting 11, maybe I'll talk a little bit about, hopefully, how the Hearts of Pine will counter that.
That may only be a 15-minute prerogative, but we shall see. We've got to go to break, and when we return, Shawn Fecteau breaks down everything Hearts of Pine. Don't go anywhere. It's the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Fans, as the weather becomes more and more unpredictable, be sure to check out 990 WBOB's weather page for all your temperature, storm, and travel info. Stay prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store with the 990 WBOB weather page.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
Back here with birthday boy Shawn Fecteau, breaking down all things Hearts of Pine. Shawn, I constructed this before we talked, and I was surprised about the amount of movement I had to put in your projected 11 in comparison to the last starting 11. So break listeners down on what you think is the most likely outcome of who we'll see in soccer action on Saturday.
Yeah, so I think, to kind of go along with, your backup goalkeeper for at least two of the three here on the panel, feel that is going to start. I also went with backup Cash Oladapo, and I interviewed Cash a little bit earlier this year and talked about him starting in cup competitions, and he seemed to be nodding along like that was probably the plan. Unfortunately, the very first one, he was red carded from last year, which rolls over into this year. So we were kind of surprised a little bit. We found out he was suspended for the first match. So I think this will be his first game in cup competition. Now that the red card suspension has been served, I think we'll see.
Wait a second. How is it you can carry a suspension when it's a completely different cup? That was a Jägermeister suspension. We're not. Bobby Murphy should have gone to HQ and really complained about that one. I don't think he fought hard enough for his keeper there.
Fairly Jägermeister and Prinx Tires, same. But getting into the back line, I took a little bit of liberty, talking a little bit about maybe that aerial skill set that we may be looking for, and Faye certainly gives us that in the center back position. So I took Kamali out and put Faye in. Now, here's the thing with Faye. He made an error about some 4 games ago, and he's been in the doghouse for 3 matches, a full week. So it's hinging on if Bobby Murphy feels that he has paid his penance and he's ready to trust him again. So a little bit of relationship trust fall, if you will, if we're going to see Mbake Faye pair it up with Breck Evans. Then, of course, our outside backs, Drek, and I'm willing Jaden Jones-Riley back into fitness. He came off a major knee injury last year, ACL. He's trying to come back into fitness. Had a hamstring kind of tweak on him a little bit, typical of players coming back from major injuries. One other thing goes, and compensation in the leg, those types of things. So hopefully that hurdle is now getting cleared, and I'm willing Jaden Jones-Riley back into fitness at right back. Lopez and MPA, typical in the midfield for the Hearts of Pine. I think you'll go ahead and see those again. Mateo Kidd, which is the individual that I was talking about, trying to fill the shoes of Masashi Wada in the 10 role. Ollie Wright on his left as a winger. and JT Kamara on the right, that shifty right winger of ours, great at dribbling, great at cutting on a dime. He's going to be on the right-hand side. And Titus Washington already got a goal against RIFC already. And I think we're looking to maybe get one or two more this Saturday. Titus Washington up front will be the striker.
So then walk us through this 11, looking at just specifically the performance so far in Prinx action against Westchester, the last go. What was it? Was it this kind of, I know that you said with Oladapo, he had his suspension, but outside of that, how much of this is a change from that squad, and why will we expect things to go differently for the Hearts of Pine in comparison to the Westchester performance?
Yeah, so in comparison to the Westchester performance, that lineup, which I don't have right here in front of me, didn't quite work the way we wanted against Westchester, which is actually a surprise. I was surprised to go to penalties with Westchester, to be honest. And I think what maybe head coach Bobby Murphy may have found in our last USL League One match is, Tyler Huck, which is not in my starting 11, and Titus Washington playing off each other nicely. I put Mateo Ked in the 10 spot because Mateo is good at finding passes. He hasn't gotten in sync with all the players around him yet to know exactly where they want it, the pace of pass, and all that sort of thing. But I think going against your side, I think we're going to need a 10 to try to pick out space with those passes, and hopefully, for our sake, that those passes start syncing up, and he can start, try to cut away at some of those open spaces that we're going to try to pull the back line apart with Titus and JT Kamara running in different directions. Hopefully, Mateo can find those spaces, and we can hopefully try to cut that back line open a little bit.
I see a glaring absence in this squad. It's a player that we once had as well. So both teams now commiserating in his departure. Nathan Messer, of course, moving on to the Charleston Battery. I don't know anything about Drax's abilities or his play styles or the similarities to Messer, but has it been a noticeable adjustment on that left side, especially considering how productive both him and Wright combining were last season for the Hearts of Pine?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge on the left-hand side, and it is the reason why we see Joshua Drack in our lineup. And we went out and got him some 3 to 4 weeks or so ago. We went out and got Joshua Drack, and we had some people come in to try to fill the shoes, and just for different reasons, wasn't quite working out the way we need that left back position to work. And Ollie Wright actually has some history with Josh back in his Huntsville days. So I think Ollie kind of, maybe dropped a few pieces of information there with the head coaching staff. And I think it lined up with maybe some markers they already had on this player. And they said, let's go pull the trigger on this guy. So they brought him in, and he has instantly made a difference on the left side. We're not talking, Nathan Messer levels of attack and defense, and Nathan, as you guys well know, and Vermont Green and all that. He's a special kind of player, and he's going down to the Charlotte Battery and like picking up where he left off with the Hearts last year, and just he's making a difference down there. But Joshua Drack is Nathan Messer-esque, if you will. He's going to burn up and down that left-hand side, and he's got no problem going after a tackle.
Speaking about Mikey Lopez there in the holding midfielder position, he got a red card in the U.S. Open Cup match. Is there any concerns from him in regards to his, defensive contributions towards that midfield?
No concerns with his defensive contributions. Quite the opposite. Usually anything that starts on the attack for the Hearts of Pine, there's probably about a 60% chance that it probably started with a Mikey Lopez tackle to regain possession. And NPA probably picked it up and then started everything going forward. So Mikey Lopez is the captain of the Hearts of Pine. He's, I think, some 33 years old, possibly his last year with us. He he's only about 2 years removed from Achilles tendon, getting surgically repaired twice. And at 33 years old and doing what he's doing on turf up here, that's only got so much of a lifespan. And, I would love to see him back for another couple years, but I think the reality is it's probably a year to year. And, if at the end of this year, when the Hearts are hosting some sort of trophy, we'll speak that one into existence as well. Why not? It might be Mikey Lopez's last year, and it should not come to any surprise if that is the case.
Is this where they create the Shawn Fecteau, New England side cup competition? Is that how this works?
Yeah, that comes up next. Little plaque or something. I'll hang it up out back or something. Yeah.
Listen, I got to disagree with you on the Mikey Lopez thing. I know how important he is to the center spine of the Hearts of Pine. But while you were talking, I went and pulled the stats, and he's your captain, but he's also your captain of disciplinary problems. Led your team last year with 13 yellow cards and at least just league play. Jason said got the red last year in Open Cup, which I don't have. And this year he's already got a red card and 2 yellows. So, are you telling me that we can't get under Lopez's skin again and just try to get him off the pitch as quick as possible?
I think if you look at across the Hearts of Pine as a team, last year we led in fouls and we led in card count. So I think it's just basically we're a physical side.
Big
and I know
card
you
collectors
guys
up there in Portland.
That's right. You guys are a physical side. We're a physical side, and we get in there, and we're not afraid to get our hands dirty. And if we get a card, we get a card. And for most of the time, we're pretty good at managing it. But yeah, sometimes the red comes out.
I'll be curious to see what players the same size as Karifa Yao on the weekend, because I don't think we saw a player of that same build on your squad last year. So that'll always be the interesting thing. But got to get through this segment. So I want to ask, who is Portland's X factor, and where is this team the most dangerous on the pitch right now? Is it still on that left wing with Wright, or is there a new surprise in store for both Hearts of Pine fans and Rhode Island fans on the weekend?
Yeah, so I think it's probably still on the left-hand side, but I think this year it is starting to become a little bit more even. We have also seen the Hearts want to attack down the right-hand side, and we've also seen some long balls from Breck Evans, our center back, Breck Evans, and those going up over the top, and Titus Washington trying to bring some of those down. And also Tyler Huck trying to bring some of those down. But yeah, predominantly we're still a left side attacking team since we've gotten Drac. Drac has really kind of revived that left-hand side attack again.
We were at the Revolution game last night and watching Nashville, Matthew Corcoran, a former Rhode Island FC loanee, taking the goal kicks for their keeper because he just had a better accuracy, a better distance. It was really fun to watch, and it was good to see him succeed after he's moved on from our team. So love that for you guys. Hate to see it this weekend in its entirety. We've got to get back to our final corporate break, and when we return, we will cover the biggest storylines for Saturday's Showdown. Don't go anywhere. It is the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, gentlemen, we've got a lot to cover for the storylines because there's a lot going on. So keep these short and sweet. Opening statement for this segment. How serious do we think both of these clubs are in competing for Prinx Tire Cup glory? We know some of the opinions coaches have about the Open Cup, and the advancing means more games after the group stage. We've seen these teams kind of create some interesting rosters around these types of competitions, most noticeably last year's Murphy's side for the Hearts of Pine. Shawn, we will open the floor with you. Is Bobby Murphy going to take this serious?
Yeah, no, I think he is. I think he is going to take it serious. He's much more still into the competition this year as he was last year when we met down at your place. And I think he is going to take it seriously. We're going to see a strong 11 from the Hearts of Pine, and we're going to get after it and see what we can do at Fitzy.
Jason, is Connor going to take this serious?
Absolutely. We did well in last year's Jägermeister Cup. So I think coach will want to go out there and try and get to the next round again like we did last time.
All right. Hearts of Pine question here. Titus Washington, the lone goal scorer. I didn't want to correct you because it's your birthday, but I do have to correct you. He has not only scored once, he has scored both of Hearts of Pine's goals against Rhode Island FC. And ironically, he scored them in about the exact same time, both around the 63rd minute in each appearance. Should we expect him to get his third goal on the game ahead and continue to live up to his ways of finding a goal past Rhode Island FC?
Yeah, I think there's a real strong chance we see Titus with a goal in the match this Saturday, and I think he's probably going to need some help. Actually, I know he's going to need some help to open up those spaces like I was talking about. But yeah, I think there's a really good chance we see Titus Washington with another goal against RIFC.
I just hope it's at the exact same time again.
The 64th minute.
Just keep the tradition alive.
Just close my eyes at that moment in the game. All right. From the RFC side of things, Jason, we have talked all season about this club playing down to their opponent's level this season. There's a feeling it's just not passing the vibe test. I don't want to insult a USL 1 club. We know how close these lines are when it comes to the level of play. But since this is our first USL 1 competition all season, and RFC has been kind of shaky when it's lesser clubs, and I mean that with the most respect, should we be afraid that this trend could continue here?
No, I don't think so. I think that when we talk about playing down to our opponent's level, that's very much something that we see in the championship. We've seen that Rhode Island FC tends to do pretty well in knockout competitions. I know we can go back to the first year and, Charlotte Independence got the best of us, but that was very early on. We saw last year that we did, we took the Open Cup seriously. We took the Jägermeister Cup seriously. And the same thing we look at this year. I think that when we put us in a knockout competition, I wouldn't say that statement applies to us.
All right, Shawn, back to Hearts of Pine. Is the sophomore slump real right now in Portland?
No, I don't think it is. I think we're going through, unfortunately, some similar issues that we had last year. And last year we were, of course, learning to play with each other and things of that sort. But also we're going through some injuries this year. We got the core group back, and we have got a rash of injuries that we're trying to work our way through. So with the new guys and mixing it all together, we're just about where we were last year. Actually, I think we might be maybe a point or so more so than last year if all things are equal. So we're right about the same spot. So are we slumping? No. Are we below where we wanted to be this year coming into season 2? Yeah, I think we're below where we wanted to be.
But you're above the New Jersey Cosmos, which is the only thing that matters, right?
Love to play the Cosmos every week.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works yet. Who knows if we ever get back to regional play like the USL wants to do. Jason, RIFC side again, we cannot chase games. We need to bury the Hearts of Pine in the forest or in the tide. Walk us through why it's important that RIFC gets ahead in this match.
Yeah, only 4 of 13 goals have come in the first half. We've only seen 1 win from those. We've seen how dominant RIFC has been in first half action on the stat line. More goals earlier would force Murphy to react to Kano. The Hearts of Pine have not kept a clean sheet on the season, with the exception of 2 0-0 performances. So I think if RIFC come out the gates and they kind of, take the game by the scruff of the neck, I think that they can get a good performance out there and get a win.
And if it does go to draws, we can talk about that. But first things first, who is the biggest baddie in Group 5 at this point? Do we stay with the front runners of Brooklyn because they're out front, or do we think there's a future fixture that's going to impact this match the most? And what game is that, or which team is it to watch? Jason, we'll start with you this time.
I think most likely it could be Brooklyn, but at the same time, I've not spent too much time watching them. I've seen 1 match from them, and they didn't play very well in that one. So I'm not 100% convinced that they're the real deal or not. I mean, if you look at the championship table, they are currently below us. I think it also depends on Hartford. If they can figure out their scoring like woes, all of a sudden they they've still got 3 more matches, and we know that they have a strong defense. So I think it's possible that they could be kind of a dark horse there.
I appreciate that you've completely ignored our birthday guest, putting him in that children's table for Thanksgiving that's in the kitchen, because apparently Hearts of Pine, Shawn, have no chance. Is the Hearts of Pine the biggest baddie, or which team is it in your opinion?
If you ask me after the weekend, I'll probably have a better answer for you. But if we can get through RIFC, I think we start becoming a team that can fit that bill. But we got to shake the RIFC deal here first and foremost. That's what's right in front of us. But if I'm forced to give a team today, I'm gonna agree with Jason. I think the Jägermeister Cup champs from last year are still probably the team to beat in this group, unless someone wants to go ahead and dethrone them. I think they're the ones you got to look at.
I think about this a lot. I blame both of these clubs actually for Hartford's rise to the occasion last season. Hearts of Pine dethroned them in the Open Cup, and then we allow them to advance in the wild card in the Jägermeister. So I think both of our clubs have a bit of responsibility in sparking what went on to be their Jägermeister Cup run, and a pretty productive season. I mean, the first time, right, or second time in club history that they got into the playoffs. Yeah. So shame on both of us for not putting them down when we had the chance. Want to talk then, how do each of these teams take 3 points on the night? I'm going to go first this time because I don't want Jason to steal my notes. I've got 3 things here for 3 points. You got to surpass Portland's energy and competitive level. So don't play down to our opponent and be ready for a ruckus in Fitzpatrick. I think this is going to be a battle in the midfield. I think we're going to play wider and be a little bit more successful on the flanks, even with Ollie Wright in the mix. But I think those second balls, and I think controlling in the center of the pitch is going to be the critical play here for Rhode Island. And then getting back to Ollie Wright, we got to shut down Ollie Wright. That's as simple as that. So whether that's 2-man coverage, that's just, fouling him until he has to be escorted off of the pitch. I don't know what it is, but that's probably where this is going to come down. Shawn, we're going to sandwich this. How does the Hearts of Pine get all 3 points on the night?
Yeah, first and foremost, we got to take care of that aerial presence there in the back line. So between our center backs, and if that means Mikey Lopez pinches down to help out, whatever that looks like, we got to take out the threat of the crosses coming in or anything like that to Williams. I believe he's going to be starting, and we got to take care of that. We have to be able to penetrate that back line, that defense that you guys are known for. It's going to be tough. That's going to be the biggest job of all, is just to try to find some space. And Titus has proved he can do it, but he needs people helping him to do it. So I think that's why JT Camara will be critical in trying to pull apart that defense in unison with Titus running. So second one is finding space. And I agree in terms of the midfield. Who's going to win the midfield battle? That's going to be the third piece of the puzzle for the Hearts of Pine if they're looking to take 3 points at Fitzpatrick Stadium. And I don't think neither side wants to see penalties. I think both sides are looking for 3 points.
Jason, how does RIFC seal the deal on a third straight win over this team?
Yeah, I think it's important that they play as a cohesive unit between the defense, midfield, and attack. We've seen at times when Kano makes maybe a little too many changes that it feels there's some kind of disconnect between those 3 phases of play. So I think it's important that they establish early on, good connection, good passing lanes, things like that everyone's on the same page. They need to respect their opponent just because they are a USL 1 team. They have given us a hard time in the past. And I think, like we've seen in a championship, if we don't respect our opponent, it usually doesn't go our way. And I think continuing on with the kind of direct attack and like taking shots.
Yeah. And I'm not even going to will a draw into this, because if it goes to that, I just don't want to be there to see it in person. And second, getting a draw is probably the last thing either one of these teams wants. One of these teams needs to win to put pressure on Brooklyn. So getting into the game itself for the weekend, a reminder, you can catch all the action this Saturday, May 16th at Fitzpatrick Stadium in Portland. A healthy representation of Rhode Island fans and supporter group members will be making the trip up. It's going to be beautiful soccer weather, about 70 degrees and sunny skies, something we are not familiar with at all down here in Pawtucket. It's going to be a great day to watch soccer. Shawn, is there anything traveling fans should know as do's or don'ts in regard to getting to the stadium, pre-game or post-game activities?
No. So as far as pre-game and post-game. It's what you want to make it in terms of supporters' experience. When you're coming to Fitzpatrick Stadium, make sure you come hungry, because there's plenty of food options and drink options inside of Fitzpatrick Stadium, and we're just really happy to have a large away support come up here to Fitzpatrick Stadium, some 5 or even 6 times over our biggest support that we've had up here so far this year. So you guys are going to pressure test the front office. You're going to pressure test what we do in terms of welcoming away support. So that's a good thing. That's a bridge that needs to be crossed. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. And folks, if you're watching this on TV, turn that volume up, because you've got 2 of the best supporter sections in the country. They're going to be going at it at Fitzpatrick Stadium. This is going to be good stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's something we've just really not tried to blow out of proportion. Early on, Hearts of Pine were not going to allow Defiance to bring any of their music equipment, whether it's drums or anything else. It was a long-standing policy since you guys came online. And there was just an overwhelming demand that your leadership and the Dirigo Union and everyone came together and said, you know what, we got to try this at one point. Let's see what happens. So it'll be really interesting on the night to see how that goes. I'm excited about it. But to your point about watching the game, Shawn, kickoff is at 4 p.m. If you're not catching the match, you can go to the Pawtucket Guild for the official watch party with Defiance 1636. Being told this one's at the barn behind the beer hall. So don't show up in there and be like, where is everyone? They will be all the way in the back. And of course, if you're not going to the Guild or one of the pub partners, you can catch all of the action on Nesson, ESPN Plus, or tune in with Tom and Nick on 790 The Score on the radio dial.
Shawn, always great having you. Thank you for joining us, especially on your birthday. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
Birthday.
Appreciate it.
Where can fans find all of your incredible work?
Yeah, so you can find me over on the Friggin Soccer Show channel for YouTube. So that's where you can find a lot of my podcasting with my other co-hosts. That's where we bring it to you each and every week. And you can also, of course, find us on all of the places you find your podcasts, over on Spotify. And every once in a blue moon, I do write for the Blazing Musket, but that's been a little bit sparse as of late. But hey, you never know. You might see something up there.
Shawn, again, thank you for everything. Can't wait to talk all things soccer. See you in person on the weekend and buy you a birthday drink.
All right.
Thanks.
Can't wait.
Thanks again. Catch y'all next time. Anchors up.
Anchors up.
You've been listening to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. You can follow the show on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast and at Raising Anchor on Instagram. And be sure to check out and subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen by searching for Raising Anchor. Make sure to check out all of our coverage over at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, including RIFC news at theblazingmusket.com. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask you to be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the show. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm your main man, Juju, and on behalf of the Raising Anchor crew, goodbye for now. And as always, we are Rhode Island FC.